Welcome to the Troy Kearns podcast. We discuss real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and business to help you retire and become financially free. Make sure you share this podcast with someone who could benefit from it and leave us a 5-star review. It truly helps me out. This show will mentor you towards financial freedom. If I can do it, so can you.
Welcome to the Troy Kearns podcast. Today, I've got a very exciting guest. His name's Jeff. He has a business training other folks how to cure anxiety, how to fix their anxiety. And as many of you guys out there, I had a panic attack when I was 24 years old. I remember exactly the moment that it happened. I was driving back from college with a girl that I was dating at the time, and I couldn't stop drinking my water. I thought like I was going nuts. And then I remember getting some medication and kind of going on that whole thing. And throughout my career, I have had panic attacks. I've had anxiety issues, and something that nobody ever talks about, or talked about, I should say. And like many of you guys, watching stuff on my feed and something that, I'm interested in comes up, and Jeff pops up on my feed, and I listen to his message, and it really resonated with me because as somebody I've gone to therapists, I've gone to other people over my career, and I've never really, you feel like nobody you're talking to really identifies with what you're going through or what you have gone through. And so I brought Jeff on the show. Really excited to talk to him today. We're going to take a deep dive down the anxiety. He's got a really masterful approach. He's somebody else who's taken a really deep dive down the anxiety rabbit hole and figured everything out there about it and actually fixed it for himself. Jeff, welcome, man.
Hey, glad to be here, Troy. Really appreciate you bringing me on. Look forward to it.
So tell me about your anxiety story. You heard mine. What happened with you? When did you get your first panic attack? When did things really kind of, I guess you feel like I lost control or whatever?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. After I'm probably a 38-year journey. 38 years ago it started for me. Was in a car accident. Got out. I was knocked out for a few days. Had a concussion, comatose, and then when I woke up, I went through normal rehab. I'm just a young kid in my early 20s. And then I kept going back to the doctor saying, man, I feel this way. I feel that way. I feel this and that. And he goes, man, you got anxiety, man. He goes, because everything I was saying, I was freaking out about how I was feeling. And my whole world got turned upside down. Then he goes, you need to go to the 4th floor. So I went to the 4th floor to a different doctor. I think I'm going to see another neurologist because he said, your brain's fine, man. You had a concussion. You're good. And I went up there, and the doors opened up, and it said psychiatry. And I said, oh, hell no. I said, I'm not crazy, man. This guy, I bumped my head. No. I turned around. I'm 22, 23 years old. I turned around and left. And I said, no, this guy has it wrong. I was scared and whatever. Went up going on this quest that I broke my brain, right? That's when it started. And then I noticed, like what you're saying, when I drove, just anxiety overcame me, just the pressure of that, and had panic attacks, and just I was constantly fixated on it and just disoriented. I had what's called DPDR, where I just felt off, and a lot of generalized anxiety and just worry was constantly there. And then kind of just motored through that. I had to plug in the life because I went to doctors and they said, well, you got to take medication. I tried that and it made it worse. So I said, well, I'm not going to take something that makes it worse. And anyway, so I just embarked on a life of, I tried everything to fix it. But because there's really nothing there in the 80s, I just did everything I could, exercised, read every book I could about it, changed my diet, prayed about it, positive mental attitude and speech of how I talked about myself, and kind of white knuckled through it and lived life that way for quite a while. And then fast forward, that's kind of what started. Fast forward, lived about 8 years as a young man in his 20s, and then my brother Kurt died. And I thought I had anxiety kind of figured out. It was only when I drove, or there's a few instances where I felt like it, but I'd kind of crafted a life around it. And then my brother Kurt died. He died of AIDS back in the mid-90s. And he was my bro. He was literally 2 years older than me. And then when he passed away, I watched him. We helped him through morphine drip. That's what they did back then. They gave you a bunch of AZT. And then I saw my brother that we shared beds with, I saw him pass away, right? Just overwhelming grief. And I realized that, it made me think I could die. I was in my 20s. You don't even think of that, right? And then I saw that I could die. I saw my brother go from life to death. And boom, it moved in like a fog, man. Just like this feeling of overwhelming dread, this of anxiety and worry, and just, it was unbelievable what that did. That came in. So I went on this hypervigilance of that I was dying. Hell, I thought I had AIDS because of unprotected sex. I thought I had brain tumors. I had this, that, whatever. And navigated through life with this. And driving was tough. But I had to soldier on. There's literally nothing out there, right? You read books, you go to therapy, they tell you to breathe, they tell you that, tap or whatever it is, they talk to you for a minute, make you feel better for a second. Yeah. Because back then, there's no internet. There's no, there's just medication. Doctors are kind of at a loss. They say, it's, back then it was the whole, neurotransmitter thing. There's something wrong with you. And fast forward again, I kind of live life with it again, just this panic state. But I have a career. I've had kids, moved up in my career in sales and management and leadership, just kind of white knuckling through life, right? Right. And fast forward, lost other family members. My mother, my father, two brothers, two other brothers. And most recently, in my early 50s, mid 50s, I'm turning 60 next week. I was about 54 years old when my brother Bob died, and my mom, and I had this wave of anxiety hit me, and where I got a dizziness all of a sudden. I went into a major panic attack, just like, oh, what the hell's happening, right? Well, that just sent me down a spiral. I checked my watch, I checked my blood pressure, and thought I was having a stroke, dying because Bob died all of a sudden. Super healthy guy. And I just went down the spiral. My mom was about to die. She was at the end of life. Anyway, so when it sent me in this hypersensitive state where I was constantly worrying about, I was checking my my vitals all the time. Driving became worse. I became more agoraphobic. I didn't want to leave every store I walked to. I felt like I was a man on the moon. Of part of a family company, really successful. I had about 40 employees below me. Leadership, it was just, I'm on autopilot as far as my career. And then this hits me just out of the blue. And this would happen for a long time. It's probably a year or so where I just was losing my mind. And tried everything, was probably spending $500 a week on psychology, psychiatry, everything I could to get rid of anxiety. And
what are they telling you? Like, what, I mean, eventually when you're spending the money and you're not getting better, like, what are they telling you? Like, do this. What's the advice that they're giving you?
The advice I got was, kind of cookie cutter. One was more or less peeling the onion. I really, really liked her. She was really nice. She was very knowledgeable, and for some reason that felt good. She told me why it's happening, and it made me feel better. Okay, nervous system, parasympathetic, sympathetic, fight or flight response to big bear chasing you, yada, 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 right? And I know I'm shortcutting it. Maybe the people haven't heard it, but to me, it felt good at first to know that, okay, this is not something I'm broken. I'm not insane, right? So I felt better, but we spent a lot of time on the why, right? And then anything we do as far as the what to do was coping, tap on your forehead, the five things in front of you, the 5 F's. Then you vagus nerve treatment where you put your arms aside, you look really hard with your eyes because it's all tied to your vagus nerve. And I'm not saying that in all science, but it didn't get me out of where I was at. Did it maybe make me feel better for a second, but it never changed the loop. And it explained it well as far as what was going on in my brain. I spent enough money between the psychiatrist, the psychologist. I mean, I took the Matt Damon approach when he was stuck on Mars. He said, I'm going to science the shit out of this to get off of Mars, if you watch the movie Martian, right? And that's literally the mentality I had. I had the wherewithal, the money, the time. Like, you know what? And I sat in my gym and just my whole day was about trying to figure it out. I had a psychologist, psychiatrist. I worked out, I supplemented, I did everything I'm supposed to do. And that's what they spent time on. But they didn't walk the mile. They didn't give me the move. What's the move? Okay, I understand it. I understand why it's happening. I understand what's going on in my body. And I understand coping techniques. But what's going to get me free from it? And they didn't have the answer for that.
How'd you find that answer? And talk to us about like, because for people like anybody who's had a panic attack, it's a pretty scary thing, and I think it's like a feel of loss of control or a fear of embarrassment or something like where you don't feel like you have 100% control. It's like, you know, if you got, I know a lot of people have this. I have this, like, you know, heights. When you're on a building and it's like 74 feet tall, you know, you feel like you're going to fling yourself off the building.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, talking to many people that have had it before, that's what they feel. And I'm like, what, you know, nobody ever wants to talk about it because it sounds like a crazy thought, right? But the truth is, people that are afraid of heights, why are you afraid of heights? You're afraid you're going to throw yourself off the damn building. And I think that's what anxiety is you're afraid that you don't have control over something. And I think for people who, like, we were talking about this pre-show, is like, for me, it's like a double-edged sword. I might have anxiety, but I'm constantly getting massive things accomplished. And it's like that thing keeps me up at night. But how do you solve the anxiety, right? How do you just be the normal guy who's got nothing going on and you're just chill, right? Like, how did you figure that out?
You talk about the fear that happens with it. Was I, when I drove, was I afraid that the bridge was going to collapse? No. I didn't like that I didn't have control to pull over right then and there. I felt trapped. A lot of it is control and being trapped. Fear of heights, I'd feel that feeling when I'd look over and it's just like my inside was just pulling up. I had the same feeling when I drive on highways. Or it got to the point to even being in a line at a store. Getting my hair cut was just sitting in the chair of doom. I mean, depending if I was tired, depending on how stressed out I was. And I got my hair cut for a lot of years, every 2 weeks. And every time I sat in, it was not comfortable. Getting my hair cut, getting a massage was sometimes literally a time you ought to be chilling. I literally lay there and think I'm dying. Being stuck in line sometimes, walking into big stores, the difference. And it depends on my sensitivity, meaning that there's waves in my journey over the decades that I thought I had anxiety licked. I was like, hey, I can do these things. I'm driving okay, still resisting some, but I have my life together. Maybe I didn't sleep good. Maybe I did a lot of drinking, things like that to kind of stuff it. I had benzos if I needed them, things like that, right? But then you have high sensitization where that I was trapped in that for a long time, where all day you feel like you're on the moon. Right, just from the moment you wake up to the moment you have bed. It's almost phases. There's like high sensitivity that I'm talking about there. You're just hypersensitive 24/7, and then it's kind of a spectrum. And then you might be low level, right, where you got some anxiety. You've kind of built your life around it. You're avoiding certain things and what have you. But it's almost like a tinderbox ready to go off. If the everything lines up, because the way I think, the way I react, you'll have that explosion, where it happens. So yeah, the symptoms are really, really scary. Nobody, like you said, nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, I had 5 older brothers, fighters. We didn't come from money or anything like that. And my brothers, I tried to talk to my brothers about it, and they just call me, "Shut up, man! You're a sissy. Suck it up. Go do it." My mom and dad kind of got tired of talking to me about it. Just like I'm some soft human, and I'm, maybe so, maybe not, but I'm just saying that so you just didn't talk about it. You didn't want to open up, especially to other men. Even my best friend, I'd try to talk about it. He'd say, "Shut up, man. What's wrong with you? Sissy, laugh at you." So you really bring it in where now I'll tell anybody about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it, because if there's anything I've noticed since I've got out there on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, that men are like, damn, I thought I was the only one. There's so many people out there that are thinking that they might be in the store and they feel this feeling, or when they drive, they're like, they hear me talk about, like, oh my God, that's exactly me.
Yeah, it's crazy just to hear your story and, definitely understand some of those feelings that you're talking about. Jeff, one thing I was curious about, like, how'd you get through it? Because you tried for the longest time to solve the problem, right? To fix what's broken. And, one thing I do know is this stuff's hereditary. I don't have everything that you're talking about, but I do know, like, one of my sisters has got some of these things that you're talking about. And I do know that my son's felt like he's got to hold on to walls and stuff like that. And so one of the things I think as a good father is you don't want your kids to have to suffer through anything that you've done. And I do know that, like, it's something to do with genetics. I don't think it's something to do with, like there's something wrong with you or something wrong with me. I think it has like a predisposition to a
Correct.
certain feeling. But what is the way to get through it? What is the way that you've identified to get off Mars?
Well, you nailed it as far as your predisposition. I'm glad you brought it together because it's not like a genetic certainty. I mean, I had a family. I'm from 6 boys. My mom, my brothers didn't have. Some had modification. My dad had a little bit of anxiety. But anyways, so yeah, we're predispositioned in a way that we react to certain things. How did I get through it? Okay, part of my Matt Damon phase when I had the time and I was more critical. I had a lot of years, probably 15 years, where I crafted my life around anxiety. I wasn't driving on the freeways. I had the money to buy an Uber. When I went out, if I felt something, if I was on a date or something like that, I'd, take a few shots and, let my anxiety go away. Right. I had built a life around it. Right. So then when I was in the science phase, like, okay, how do I figure this out? How do I get the psychologist, psychiatrist, nothing was working that I did in the past. Absolutely. Right. So my gut told me I want to meet people like me. Right. I want to talk to people like me and just try to figure it out, because I'm talking to these other people and they're giving me, basically, you could Google what they're telling me to say. And the credibility, because they're a psychologist, psychiatrist, makes you feel good or whatever. Right. So I started a San Francisco, I forget the name of it. I did a meetup group and made a Facebook page, the San Francisco, I forget, anxiety recovery group or something like that, right? Boom, I had like 200 members that would meet me on a Zoom once a week. Twice a week. I did twice a week things. People just signed up like crazy off of it. And I just started wanting to meet people. I was hoping to meet 3 or 4 people. I had hundreds of people wanting to join. Right. Wow. So I ended up leading this thing when I'm just hypersensitized, still living life, but I had a lot of anxiety. So to find somebody like me was huge, right? But I also knew I was missing something. Nobody had been through it. And I was on I was starting coaching program, or I was purchasing coaching programs, buying video courses, everything I possibly could, right? All roads led to Dr. Claire, where there's people that recovered. I found people that had been through anxiety. People, this one young man, Nico, is he was my mentor, so to speak, and he had been through it, and found some people that had been through it, and in a group, and it was all based off Dr. Claire Weeks, which is, she has a book, Hope and Help for the Nerves. She's kind of the OG of this back in the 60s, where she was a doctor, had anxiety, had panic, but so she went doctor mode to figure out what was happening within her nervous system, but then also how to fix it. Right. And it came down to how you respond, how you float with it. She writes kind of old timey, but that's where the basis of, call it, I think it's ACT, acceptance commitment therapy, came from. Right.
I haven't heard of that before.
And then what the other book was, all of this was off the principles like Paul David at Last to Life, which he was more now, right? And then even Dare has a good program called Dare, DARE, by Barry McDonough, right? It's all based off these fundamentals of what's going on, right? How to respond to anxiety, right? So, meaning that before, there's 2 types that you learn of what you do with anxiety. When you get a panic attack, what do? You pop a benzo, you breathe, you splash water on your face, you do everything you can, or you avoid the situation, right? That's what they call as resistance, meaning that you're worrying about it, you're hyper-focusing on it, you're trying to get rid of it, and it's keeping that loop alive of anxiety, right? The opposite of anxiety, fear and worry, the opposite of that is acceptance, allowing it to be there. Like you said, I want to be one of those chill people, just like, hey, whatever, man, it happens, it happens, right? That's what I want to be. And you can't just say, all right, I'm just going to be chill and it's going to be okay. You got to earn it, right? And it's a training of the mind of how you respond, because you're going to get hit with stimulus in your life. You're going to get hit with whether it's pressures at work, so on and so forth, or let's take it with anxiety itself. When anxiety hits, you either try to run, you try to fix it, you try to flee. You got this fear. She talks about the first fear when you get blasted with it, and then not feeding the second fear. Or you have the choice of saying, look, you just let it be there and recognize what's happening. Surrendering to us the word that came up to me, eventually I had to give up the fight. Just, all right, do what you got to do. Meaning if I'm driving across that bridge, and if I go off, I go off. If I'm having a panic attack, my heart's racing like mad. All right, man, let's go. It takes a lot of practice. It's not like, oh, really? That's just all you have to do? No, it took a lot of practice. Yeah. So, and I kind of talk like popcorn. I think when you get done listening to me, it might make sense. But this is the way my mind kind of works. Is I went then, so I joined a group, had a guy named Nico, got in this a coaching group, and with my mentor, it was all based off of this, and he walked me step by step kind of through my journey. Meaning, because you kind of, in the beginning, because you're doing, what you've done is myelinated in your brain. I learned that from the psychiatrists and neuroscientists. It's like a behavior of resistance. It's hardwired into you. When you feel like ass, you want to get rid of it. Like, okay, I feel like this. How do I do push-ups? Do I take meds? What do I got to do to get rid of this feeling? Avoid it, whatever it is. Where then you're training a new response of saying when you recognize the symptom, then you just like, all right, hey, there it is, and surrender to it. A lot of the thoughts, well, what if, Jeff? What if you go down? A lot of mine was rooted in death and fear of dying. And finally I had to surrender. Hey, if I go down, I go down. Let's go. But in the meantime, I'm going to move forward. I started avoiding stores. I started avoiding going to of my kids' events. I mean, I was missing things in life. And then eventually by walking through anxiety, right, with kind of Sherpas, let's say, that would say, Jeff, you're on it, because the brain so much wants to go right back to the old ways, try to figure it out, try to fix it, that by them kind of walking me through it, eventually what happens is your nervous system desensitizes. It quits putting out the hormones. You become tolerant of these driving on the freeway. I can drive on the freeway now. I couldn't do it for 20 years here in the Bay Area.
Wow, 20 years.
20 years. I could not. I would drive.
How good does that feel now, bro?
Oh, I still drive on it, and I'm like, wow. I'll be on the left lane doing 80, and when I used to be in the right lane, just waiting for the next exit to get off, and just to get from one exit to another was just horrible. Mm-hmm. And for that to happen over practice, over time, it's just mind blowing. I just drove I flew down to Florida for a family vacation with my in-laws. Not my in-laws, my sister-in-law, I guess. She and her family, we drove from Florida, I don't know, to Tennessee or something like that, roads that I hadn't been on, and I could never have done that. I wouldn't have done it. It was like going to the moon. Hey, Jeff, you go drive here. It's just
you would have avoided it.
Yeah, 100%. And it all came down to changing my relationship with anxiety when I felt the feeling. Behaviors, there's certain behaviors I cleaned up outside of anxiety, how I thought when things happened, when I lost other family members, when I had business might go sideways. There's the underpinning. I call it like the top-down, bottom-up approach to anxiety. A lot of people, the only reason they listen to me is because when I hit them with the symptoms, like, yep, I have that. Yep, I've seen that, right? Mm-hmm. And I can walk them way through. So everybody wants to, okay, how do I get rid of this dizziness, the ringing in my ears, the tight band around my head, my gut issues, whatever, right? And we do that. By changing your response, your symptoms will fade. It's certainty. If you will practice it and you put in the work, it's inevitable, right? But
let's use your freeway example. So that's a pretty good example. You can drive on the freeway for 20 years. So you've conditioned a response to yourself that says freeway bad, I'm not driving. Right. And now 20 years later, you're driving all through Florida. What was your first step to start to condition yourself to say that that's okay, that nothing bad is going to happen?
It started going inch by inch, meaning that getting in a car, sometimes it was side roads, things like that. Getting in the car, driving, taking one exit at a time. I did this before. When I used to drive across the country, I drove across the country white knuckling. Literally, I would go and in my 20s and 30s, if I had to drive, I did it. It was just one exit at a time. It took me, something to take me an hour, it'd take me 3-4 hours because I was just trying to blast through it. The difference now was, when I would practice, I would go out and there's a Lowe's that's about an exit or 2, 3 miles from me. I would get on the 4 and I'd take one exit at a time. But instead, when I did it this time, I practiced the surrender. I said, all right, hey, you can be there. I recognize that feeling coming up in me, anxiety. Instead of me bracing for it, trying to, just do the white knuckle it, I let go. It's just, all right, whatever. And my mind's racing. Hey, Jeff, you feel like you're going to pass out? You might die. There's, hey, all right, whatever, but I'm going to keep moving forward.
Right.
Eventually, by doing that, I got farther and farther and farther. And the more I leaned into it, my body responded. I remember going across the Bay Bridge, and literally on a pretty day, and I was crossing the Bay Bridge, which would have been not an option. And I cried. I was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. Because, you have decades. I'm going to be 60. My whole life was dogged by this, and by changing my relationship with the symptoms, understanding what happened. That's important. The psychologist wanted me to understand that. Okay, this is why it's happening. Great. Check. I understand why that's happening. Now, what's the move? And by practicing that acceptance, surrender, like, all right, hey, whatever. I had doctor check me out. Didn't have the brain tumors. Didn't have, I had heart palpitations, everything like that. I got once my body's checked out, you have to put it under the anxiety umbrella and move on. And went from exit by exit, store by store, line by line, haircut by haircut, whatever it is. But instead of just white knuckling it, you actually change your response to it. What goes on internally? Because there's a dialogue. One of two things happening. Either A, when you feel crazy, you're either going to go down the path of, what's this? What's going on? How do I get rid of this? Right? Push it away, everything like that. Fear, and then you focus on it, you avoid or whatever, right? Or you have the path of, all right, recognize it. There it is, man. All right, let's go. Do what you have to do. I used to walk into Sam's Club. I'd walk into Sam's Club at the big stores when I was hypersensitized, and I felt like I was going to die. Literally, I felt uncomfortable. Everything. I had DPDR. So major dizziness was a part of it. I took the action. Hey, if I go down walking. Let's go. And it was uncomfortable, man.
It's crazy. I think that people who've never experienced it, and I know many people that have experienced it, and I think, but people who've never experienced, they think, oh, that's crazy. What the hell is he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, just to be honest with you, like, some people listening might be like, what the hell is this guy even talking about? Walking, driving, you know what I mean? Like, but when you have one and you have another one, you'll know. Like, it could be like, I guess the way for somebody who doesn't have any sort of anxiety to relate is like, what is your fear? Whatever that fear is, add that to your part of life and it becomes a situation. Because I think a lot of people have, my wife is always like seeing, like, she has like no anxiety on like bridges or anything like that. Certain things, like she loves like looking over like a big old tall 500-foot out, wow, whatever, but she's worried about me running over the dog all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's, everybody's got something different, but, but I think that anxiety for people who have a predisposition to it, it might develop from a fear of a health thing. It might develop from a claustrophobic, from I can't fly, I can't drive, I can't do whatever, or I need to do it. A lot of people, they're going to medicate, they're going to drink, they're going to, I haven't drank in 17 years, partially because when I used to drink, I would have bad anxiety in the morning, and I was like, I don't want to feel that way anymore. And it was one of the reasons I didn't quit. Obviously being a drunk was the other one, but I definitely noticed that when I would come off, my serotonin level would drop so low, Jeff, that I was like, oh man, this is not a good feeling. This is like a blast of that feeling that I've had before. And
anxiety. Anxiety. It's a real thing, man. I thought I was dying. I just thought, I'd come up from a hangover and just, it was horrible.
The only thing that makes you feel better is drinking.
Yeah. And I quit for years too, drinking, because I was just like, I didn't want to feel it. I thought that was part of the reason of my anxiety, And I think that's a superpower of anxiety also. It was telling me, hey, Jeff, you might want to back off some drinking, right? But I don't drink at all. I mean, I drink rarely, whereas I was probably getting hammered 2-3 times a week. It's just that's
probably with no anxiety. That's the one thing is when you're drinking is, if you want to not have anxiety, just drink all the time, because it'll definitely mask that symptom forever. Yeah. I mean, you feel invincible when you're drinking. It's the opposite, right?
But then when you sober up, welcome to the jungle.
Welcome
know,
to the jungle.
I have a neighbor, and you wouldn't think the way he talks is very loud, very, guys in shape, boisterous. But then when he found out what I did, I talk about it and go, yeah, after I drink, I have a lot of anxiety, man. He had to whisper it to me too, man. I got a lot of anxiety. Yeah, bro. It will induce that naturally to you for sure. But even how you respond to that, because the way I responded in the past was, oh my God, this is terrible. Where there's something wrong with me. I blew a fuse or something like that. When the reality is there's people that out there in the world, when they have a hangover, it's like, it's not a hangover to them. Yeah, okay, it is what it is. They give no mind to how they feel. Yes, they feel off, but the anxious person's like, oh, because they're hyper vigilant. They truly are trying to figure it out. Okay, this is off. There's something wrong with me, and so the hangover turns into this event, opposed to somebody else will be like, yeah, I feel a little off, whatever. And that's what we're predispositioned to, is the predisposition to hyper focus on something, make it bigger than it is, which I found in life that I applied the same methodology. I call it the fear not framework, because you kind of have to have a methodology to work through it, because your brain gets hijacked by anxiety, right? So the fear not framework, but whereas the fear is the resistance part, the worrying, the overthinking, the trying to get rid of it, whatever. And then, control, and then the fear not, where it's basically letting go. And you notice it is right there. Hey, I'll do the best I can. Mentality, kind of let it be, kind of attitude, and transition back to life. I've applied that to every area in my life, and I'm a different human. And I know it sounds cliche. I'm got no reason to sit here and blow smoke up your ass. Literally, my family's like, who am I talking to? I was the type of guy, I'd go to the wall. I would argue over certain things and debate certain things, and I'd get hyper upset about certain things, or where I kind of got a more balanced attitude because I applied in every area of my life. And that's why I say it's like the bottom up. There's a reason why anxiety doesn't come from symptoms. Symptoms come from somebody that overthinks, ruminates, catastrophizes. They're caught up in their mind all the time like a gerbil, right? And the way that they react. The anxiety comes from worry. And what happens is it gets embedded into the body and turns into symptoms, turns into a panic attack. And as you apply that to everything, your whole life desensitizes.
Man, I am so happy that you turned into the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast. It's something that I've been working on for over 3 years right now. We're up to 150 podcast episodes. A lot of them are virtual. A lot of them are in studio, which is what we prefer. If you have a guest that you think that should be on our podcast, all you got to do is comment who it is, and we'll reach out to them. Or if you want to reach out to them and reach out to us, we'd love to have them on a show. We're looking for entertaining, inspirational people that, just like you hear on the podcast every week, that can bring value and help our listening audience achieve their goals. If that's something for you, comment down below and let us know. So you've changed. What has made you want to help so many different people? Like, now you've become this guy who didn't talk about it. That's why I thought it was great when I was talking to you the other day. It's like, you just feel like I think that some of the suffering that people deal with anxiety, and anybody who's had a panic attack or generalized anxiety knows this, is like, you feel alone, right? You feel like, oh man, I'm the only guy going through this. I'm the only woman going through this. Nobody else can understand what I'm feeling like. But the reality is, as you're pointing out, and based on the views and likes that you have and comments, that there's a large percentage of people that are dealing with the exact same things that you are. And I think more so now than ever, I think I hear from the younger generation that they have anxiety. Like, as a general, like, it's like, there's a lot more people that are gay now, and there's a lot more people that have anxiety. There's the two things that have come from, I think, from the overdose of serotonin and the social media a little bit. But what made you want to get the message out and help people? Like, where did that come from?
I think I was built for it. Once again, I truly think when it came timing in my life, all my life, if I would tell even therapists, because I'm that type of guy. If when I was in sales, when I was young, or leadership, I'd tell somebody, man, if you show me the way out of this, I will tell the world. I'll make you. If you're a therapist, I will make you I will send you more business than you'll know. I'll just tell everybody. Cause I just know the hell that I was in, the living life, and I did. I had kids. I had marriages, successful businesses. I lived life. I've traveled, everything, but it was hard. There was a tremendous amount of it that was hard because of anxiety. It wasn't all the hypersensitivity the whole time, it was hard a lot, right? So I guess fulfilling that mission since I was young, if I can figure out a way through this, I will sing it to the world. Well, it happened to be that, like I said, part of a family business. I work from home, and so a friend of mine said, "Man, the way you talk, man, you ought to throw up a video and see what's up." So I just did it, and boom, got like 70,000 views, thousands of comments. I was like, "That's cool." So I started talking to it. Before I knew it, just kind of blew up. And then I told my family, "Hey, you know what? I like doing this. I'm going to do this for a while." And it's my full-time job now. And what's crazy is I love it. I see people that come in, they're caught at some level. They might be hypersensitive. They might only have one issue. I might have like one guy that he owns 4 bars. He deals with just a kind of a low level panic. He has some DPDR. He has just some symptoms, let's say, right?
Right.
We're working with him, and he's getting growth. I have another guy. He has a painting company. Super successful guy in Kentucky. He wasn't leaving his house as much because he had head pressure, and he felt this fog, and he had teams. He's out there doing it, and he now within 2-3 months he's business jobs again. His business was on autopilot, but he wasn't living life. Now he's out living a life. I don't hardly hear from the guy, so that's why I do it.
That's what you want, right? You don't want to hear from those guys anymore.
No, I mean I love it. It just makes me all right. Then maybe Jeff had a purpose. There is a purpose why I lived almost 4 decades with that crap.
So it feels like your purpose. Like you suffered so that other people don't have to as much, or they can get the help that they need. I think it takes a lot of courage to talk about what you talk about online. I think that that's why I wanted to have the podcast with you, because it's something that I haven't talked about a ton. And, I think it's one of those things that you kind of suffer in silence, and you just get through, like you said, you white knuckle it, whatever you're dealing with. It's like nobody gives a shit, because really nobody does give a shit except for the people that have it. And then the people who have it, they do give a shit because they want to solve it. And they don't want to have that problem anymore. And so I think you're very brave for getting on and talking about it, and for B, trying to help people. So let's talk about some of the people that you've helped. I mean, I know we can't drop names or anything like that, but you mentioned the painter, you mentioned these people. So how are they coming to you, and how are you able to help them?
Well, what they do, they either message me or get referred to me or something like that. They come find my page and DM, and I just open up a dialogue with them, and then we have a call. We talk, kind of see if we're a good fit. I'll kind of see where they're at, and then the people, we start at zero. We kind of find out where they're at in their life, and I got a network of about 60 clients. A lot of them are deep into their recovery. They're living their life. I don't hear from them that much. I probably got about 30, 40 people that are in recovery, but I tell them it's almost like I'm best friends with you. I've run sales teams of 150, right? I've had salesmen, sales directors. I mean, my bandwidth is I can handle it, right? And I kind of just get I become best friends when we message, when we walk together is my motto. Look, we'll walk together till you walk on your own. In the very beginning, it's a lot of communication, because that's what I miss when I go to a psychologist or psychiatrist. You pay $250 for an hour, and then you sit there for an hour and you're bleeding. We'd be talking about my childhood and it had me crying or something like that. All right, ding, time to go. I'm like, wait. Anyways, so I make sure that I'm available through messaging, one-on-one calls. I have group calls with them, and I have a girl in New York. She's 28 years old. She was full-time. She was in a 5-day outpatient, had a psychologist, psychiatrist, wasn't doing anything, right? She was living in panic. And when she's 28 years old, solid human. She went from this, just her life was upside down, to where now she's down in Florida visiting her dad. She was finishing her internship with her job. She's going to school, living life, has a boyfriend, just has everything, and has unplugged from it by changing your response to anxiety. And this girl was in midnight panic attacks. I got hundreds of stories of that. Of where people
the thing that you say that really kind of resonates with me more than anything is that when you talk about going to the psychiatrist and you go there and you revere this person as like they're educated about this, they understand how to fix it. and you pay them $250 an hour, maybe more sometimes, right? And you give them your money, and you go there, and you talk to them for an hour, and then you go back the next week, month, whatever it is, 2 months, and you do the same thing, and you never get better. And isn't that the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? But I think the reason that I really like what you have to say is I believe it. Like when somebody else, I've been to therapists, and they say something like, you don't even fucking know what you're talking about. You've never been through this. You can't relate to what I've done. It's like, if I'm a real estate coach, and I've helped a lot of people with real estate, there's guys out there that coach that don't know, that have never flipped a house, that have never done anything. And I think that's the big problem, is when you have imposters, which would be the therapists, that are trying to tell you as the patient how to get better when they don't even know. They know from a book versus from how you're walking your life and you've gotten through it. And I think that's the thing that made me want to talk to you so much, because I could have anybody on here, a shrink, I could have anybody on here talk about the chemical imbalance or the this or the nervous system, all the things that you've talked about. But I think what makes you different, and we talked about this on the phone. This is how old we are. You're older than me, but I'm old too now. I'm 40. I'm 47. The best thing you could do, Jeff, is tell yourself you're 47, because I did it all last year, and I thought I was turning 48 this year, and I was, oh shit, I missed a year. You get a free year out of the deal. But one thing about that we talked about was Lucinda Bassett, because I remember when I had my first panic attack. I told you I was 24. And I worked at a radio station, and she used to run these direct response ads. And she would talk about all this stuff, but one of them was like anxiety, and it was like Lucinda Bassett. And you told me that you paid for that back in the day, and I remember listening to that as well, because the worst thing is when you have a panic attack, you think you're going nuts. And for me, I'll tell you what mine was. Mine was my uncle was nuts, and I was like, well, I've got two sisters, he's got two sisters. You know what I mean? I must be going nuts too. And so
sure.
Yeah. And so
makes sense.
That makes sense, right? Totally. Makes a lot of sense. He's got two sisters, I got two sisters. And he went nuts and I'll go nuts. And so I think, to me, that's such a good feeling to know that when you're talking to someone, they've actually been through it. And I think that gets the buy-in from the patient. And if you don't have the buy-in from the patient, you're never going to have any results, because it's how are you going to fix it?
I wish I had I would like to, and I've thought about doing this, is pairing up with a therapist. Because what they will do is they will give you, they do have, believe it or not, most of them. Some of them that are yes, there's coping techniques, but it'll never get you through it. Tapping, finding 5S, vagus nerve, deregulation, blah, 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 right? But the ones that actually understand acceptance, which most of them are, they're taught this, but then that actually buy into it, and then have somebody with them that actually walk the mile. It's like I tell people, like, you could tell me how to get up Everest, and you can have geo-mapping and everything like that. But if I'm going to take
you're overweight and you're not on an Everest,
or if I can go, I'm going to go with a Sherpa. The guy walks it all the time, opposed to someone that hadn't walked the Everest. But there's kind of a combination of both. I mean, I think I look at the therapists were part of my journey, and I'm thankful for them. It got me. I've learned a great deal from them, but couldn't push it in. So that's why I wish I almost had that, because you do lose some credibility, because people think, well, who are you? I'm a guy with a PhD in anxiety. I walked it.
That's the interesting thing about our society, is that, Jeff, people just think because you got a degree, or like I used to think as a young man, the lawyers, they're smart. They got this degree. They're super smart. And then I realized after being in battles with these guys that I'm smarter than these guys a lot of the time, and I know more than them. They got everybody's the same, is what it boils down to. Nobody's different. The only person that's different is the person that's walked, what do they say, 1,000 miles in somebody else's shoes, and they know what it's like to be there. One thing I want to talk about with you, though, Jeff, specifically, is like the people that you've helped and how you've helped them. What's kind of the review process for them there? Because you're changing their lives big time. It's not like, I know when I help people get their first flip, and they call me up, they're crying sometimes with a real estate deal, and I'm just like, yeah, this is just part of life. But for you, this is something that could be debilitating. You know what I mean? As you know, what is that response like? I mean, what kind of is that environment with that therapy?
I've set it up where there's not an end date. Meaning that people can subscribe to me for years, and even the way I've charged my coaching, it declines. Eventually, and then I have people hit me up years later, like, "Hey Jeff, how you doing, man? You believe I dealt with that?" Whatever. I mean, but I've created a community to where they can plug in even later. I have some people that disappear for 2-3 months, and they'll come back in, kind of get a tune up here or there. But basically, how they end up fading away, getting them to life, and I know that's when they're recovering. I don't hear from them. Oh, sweet. They're out there living it. Hey, how you been? I hit up a friend of mine, Lena. She's, a few years ago, she was a client of mine, and she's just out living life. I just out of the blue, hey, how you been? Man, living the best life, blah, blah, blah. So that means they're recovered, and I'm good. I'm happy for that. If that's your question, it's like,
Well, I just was wondering, like, specifically, like, you're giving people these lives back, and I'm wondering, like, you're doing it online, so I imagine like it's breakthrough therapy. So how appreciative are these people?
Oh, what's funny is the best thing I get, because when you have anxiety, well, no matter what it is, they come in and you have someone that's just either losing it or moderated or whatever, and then as they're progressing, and then you go to say, how much different is it now? How much is it different now from the beginning? Are you better than the beginning? And they'll all go, oh God, I wish I had a montage of their face. They just it's just, oh my God, it's unbelievable. Even though they're in the shit right there, and they're asking me, Jeff, what about this or that? They've leveled up so much they forgot where they came from, and then they'll ask me. So,
that makes a lot of sense.
So and it's just unbelievable, and there's people going living their life right now, and they'll hit me up every now and again, and I'm just very.
It's gotta feel good to just help all these people.
Yeah, I've been. I think that's our mission here on Earth, to try to help as many people as we can. Literally, and not that I'm like some healer or anything like that. I swear, I'm just a guy who's had anxiety and figured out a way through. That's it. And that if for some reason I can shortcut it for some young 22-year-old man, and he doesn't have to live 4 decades of that, a little over 3.5 decades, and he can get a grasp on this early, then my life's worth something, And I'm not saying I'm done at 60, but my family's I've lost a lot of my family. Death is kind of in the horizon. Call it the third period of the hockey game, right? Mm. And if there's something out of this that all of this meant something, and even funny you brought up my kids. My children, my daughters. I have 4 daughters. They're fantastic. Got an amazing relationship with them. All of them have dealt with anxiety at some level. Some really, really low, right? But to be able to help them and get them positioned. My Jacqueline, my daughter, she had it. Every doctor thought she had syncope. I was divorced, so her mom went down the old route, and doctors are saying she has vasovagal syncope, everything. She has ADD. She gets all these labels. I was like, dude, she got anxiety. Spent the summer with me, and we faced it. I went and got her a car, and because she wasn't driving, she's afraid about passing out, all this other things. She was, and we got her ironed out. The girl drives now, and her anxiety, it's still there, but it's it's in the rearview mirror. My oldest daughter, driving anxiety is hard for her. She had some panic attacks, things like that, non-existent. One had public speaking. One of my daughters had sleeping issues, couldn't sleep. So I'm able to pass it on to my kids. I was able to help them and give them a mindset that as stimulus comes in life, because things are coming at you.
Yeah.
What's coming at you in life? It ain't easy. How are you going to respond? How are you going to handle that? That will make life so much easier. Of how I just lost my brother Bob and my brother Nick in December, right? And he was, I had Kurt, Bob, Nick. I lost, my brothers that have passed. Nick was 5 years older, but me and him had like a bromance. This was a guy in Special Forces Marines. Me and him lived. We fought together. We drank together. We worked together. Well, there's everything we did. And we spoke all the time on the phone. Well, he passed away from cancer. And in the past, when I had anxiety, death really, really turned me upside down. Mm. I was so at peace with my brother. I had a totally different attitude towards watching my brother, being there, saying goodbye to him. Me and him hugged it out, cried. We knew we were saying goodbye forever. And just we both are crying, and not to go down the rabbit hole I did before of the fear and the sadness and grief that I fed so much. Not that I was pushing it away, but I had a different attitude about life totally. So that's unbelievable. And I wanted to bring this up earlier since I'm talking about Nick was Special Forces Marine, right? Hard man, Golden Glove boxer, one of the hardest people you'd ever meet, right? Nobody wanted to fight him, just a tough SOB, right? He gets cancer later on in life, and then he's going through it. They messed with his meds, and it gave him some anxiety and some panic. He never had it before. This is a guy who swam in the night, in the dark. I mean, he did covert missions. I mean, he's a hard man, right? And then he got anxiety. He calls me up, Jeff, man, I think I got what you got, right? He has me working through it all, oh man, this is horrible, whatever. And we kind of talk him through it, whatever. It was 3, 4, 5 days later, we noticed that his meds had flipped. Hey, let's get you back on your meds, because he had totally quit taking what he was. Whatever, got him squared away. But he tasted anxiety, right? He tasted panic. He hits me up a week later. Literally, he was choked up. He goes, bro, he goes, I'm sorry, man. He goes, I didn't know. Whatever I've all your life, man. He goes, you know what? I'd rather have what I have than what you have. It's stage 4 cancer. And he was dealing with brain, and he was just like, what you got? He goes, I want nothing to do with that. And a lot of people don't understand that. And some people do. When you talk about the panic attack, that's an NDE. That's literally a near-death experience. When you have one, it's as close to it as you get. It's your brain telling you it's an overload. So I don't know if I told you.
That's crazy that he was able to feel your pain and call you up and just say, hey, man, I didn't realize that you dealt with this. I just had a taste of it. And he's probably telling you you're the toughest son of a bitch out there, even though because I think that's what, one of the things that I have come to grips with that has made everything okay is that the reason I'm wired the way I'm wired and the reason I accomplish so much is because I have anxiety. And I have to take that and be okay with it, because I'd almost rather have my life the way it is than I would be to be one of those people who don't give a shit and don't accomplish anything. And I look at guys like Howard Hughes. I'm sure you are familiar with Howard Hughes. He had massive anxiety, but the guy accomplished, and this is before they just over-medicated him and they sterilized him and they gave him all these things. But this is something that's been going on in our history books for a long time. And a lot of people, even one of the guys who's my hero, Kirk Kerkorian, I just read his book. He built Las Vegas. Like, he lived in San Francisco. He lived in Beverly Hills. He built Las Vegas. And one of the things they're talking about in the book is, like, he left. You can see he was having a panic attack during being on, during a teleconference. And they're like, he's never going to do that again. But I think a lot of successful people, because of our drive, the way we process certain things, it just leads to anxiety. So I think that that's something to talk about a little bit. What do you think about that?
Oh, totally agree. I call it that is it's your superpower. It's part of why you are Troy Kearns. It's why you got where you're at, because of anxiety, not the fear of passing out, not the anxious dude that can't sleep at night or anything like that, right? But that mentality of, I'm going to burn the midnight oil because I want to make deals. I want to do this or that. I have the drive, the determination, and you put your energy all into this, right? Or we apply it towards everything, meaning that we overthink everything. And if we're being able to recognize our bodies kind of going into it, the Troy Kearns, the successful Troy Kearns, what he would do is when he has anxieties hit him, he can't sleep, or he's not feeling good or anything like that, he's going to, oh shit, what am I going to do? And you think. If I have a panic attack, okay, I'm going to fix it this way, I'm going to fight it this way, I'm going to do this, because that's how you've accomplished what you got. But when it comes to understanding that, okay, I run a life like this, and I feel like this, accepting that I feel like that, okay, I'm not going to get some sleep right now, or catch yourself in rumination, I'm thinking, and opening up, okay, hey, I'll wait till tomorrow. I'll deal with that tomorrow, right? Not sitting there overthinking something, or when you feel your body coming up and you got that panic attack, you change your response to it. Oh, okay, there it is right there. whatever. You can be there if you want to and move forward, not trying to get rid of it. You can live with both. You can be a successful person. I mean, I'm at 59 and I'm getting on social media and I'm becoming a social media guy. Never thought that would happen, ever. And I've got more energy now. And I think about it a lot, what have you, but I don't let it consume me. I do recognize myself sometimes where I'll worry about a problem or something like that. And I'll catch myself and literally kind of the wait and see attitude. Hey, we'll do that tomorrow. And then wake up and crush it tomorrow. Opposed to mindset. So it's a balance of that superpower you have, but not applying it and understanding why your body's doing what it is because you've applied it to that. You might be pushing yourself too hard sometimes, maybe drinking too much or you're overthinking stuff at night too much. You're bringing this shit with you everywhere you go and not separating. We can open that can of worms, but how you respond to everything. You could just start responding to whether it's flight anxiety, driving anxiety, being in line anxiety, or a physical sensation or sleeplessness, and you change your response just to that, it'll fix. It'll go away. You still can be Troy Kearns, but you just got to change your response to these things that are kind of disrupting your life.
Yeah, it's so powerful what you say. I think that a lot of people, including myself, can understand it. I think it's one of those things that, like I said, I don't think anybody talked about anxiety. I remember I'm 47 now, so it's been 23 years I had my first panic attack. And I've had them, and I've been through them, and I've gotten through them, and, it is what it is. But when you start talking, I said, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. This is somebody who knows what they're talking about. And I think that it now feels more comfortable to share what we're going through because you realize it gives you some relief. That's why I wanted to do this podcast with you today is like, hey, listen, man. I don't give a shit. Like at the end of the day, why do I care? If it can help me, it can help somebody else who maybe has a symptom. As you said before, what your brother says, I wouldn't wish a panic attack on my worst enemy. It's a miserable feeling. I know many people who have had them and they've talked to me. And if you are listening right now and you've had one, you understand. If you haven't had one, you're going to understand if you do have one. And it's not something that you want. And I think that it's a feeling that in today's nature, it's more common than it was, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think it has a lot to do with, God, we work from home now. Everything's so accessible. You don't have to get out in the world. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to have human interaction. That it's more apparent now that people are stuck in their phones because a lot of it's just getting out, living life, and bringing it with you, not avoiding stuff, getting out there, having human interaction. So much of that is it seemed like it went rampant. And what are they saying? It's just anxiety is increasing more and more and more. We got these devices where it's just saying the world's ending, the world's ending. Everybody, this is bad, because that's what sells. So you get embedded in this political fallout, the financial fallout, whatever, that you just sucked into it, and everybody looking good, and you feeling less than you are because you see all these, Instagram people, and you feel like a failure. I mean, it's just so much. I think is a big part of it, opposed to unplugging, going out there, living life, and meeting people, and where definitely during the pandemic we noticed a big increase of people.
For sure, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and, helping a lot of people. If people who are trying to get a hold of you and they want to get in your program and they want to see what you got to say, how do they get a hold of you, Jeff?
You can just email me at jeff@anxietytrainer.com. If you want to talk more, I can send you videos or whatever. Obviously, if you go to TikTok, it's Anxiety Trainer. I do have a YouTube channel, Anxiety Training Coach. Instagram, Anxiety Trainer. But if you email me or something like that, hit me up if you want to talk. It's kind of how I operated. I don't. I'm just a coach trying to help people out and not trying to make some empire of this. And hit me up. I love what I do. I really do.
Yeah, you can tell, man, and it shines through. I think that, like you said, if you haven't experienced something, and if you're going through, and I think that everybody in life goes through certain struggles, and then you're able to empathize with the other person, but you're not able to empathize until you've actually dealt with it. It doesn't matter if it's anxiety, if it's like loss of somebody losing their mom or someone losing their dad, and you're just like, whatever, dude, suck it up. And then you go through something like that, and you're like, And the older you get, like I've seen a lot of people, I lived in Las Vegas 15 years. I've seen a lot of people in the last 5 years die, like get murdered. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, at the end of the day, life is short. We're in this journey together. We're all human beings. And the more people that we can help with whatever their goals are, whether it's, getting good at life, living life, or getting good at enjoying your life more. I think what it's all about is because I'm teaching real estate, you're teaching people how to cope with anxiety, but we're both trying to help people live a fulfilled life. And no matter where you get, no matter how much money you get, if you can't shut off certain things, you don't have happiness. I think that is what everybody is seeking, is happiness, and they're trying to seek peace and happiness. And that's what I think you've just found. And I really appreciate you sharing your journey.
And you think about it, worry, is biblical. It's been around since the beginning of time. People worrying, people freaking out, hiding in caves, things like that. It's just for some reason we're told we should be comfortable and not have. You're going to get pressures of the world, but what are you going to do when you get hit with these things? What are you going to do? And that's kind of what I tell my people. You have a choice, man. At that point, you can either go in the fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or you can walk through this, and we walk through it together and get you free, man.
Yeah. Well, I think it is the evolution of the human beings. Like when you mentioned earlier before, it's the fight or flight. Like we were supposed to be chucking and chasing spears and running down, like human beings are some of the only creatures that can run for days, right? Like if you watch the movie Apocalypto, I don't know if you've seen that. It's a fucking great movie. And the guy's just running for days. And that's what we were trained to run. And so now we're stationary. We're on computers and the anxiety is high. And if you're having that issue, if you've dealt with some sort of panic, or if you feel like you need a little bit of relief, I'm telling you, Jeff's the real deal. I've had issues in the past. I'm somebody who's always trying to get better. I think that's what it's about. If you're trying to get better and you're trying to live a better life, hit Jeff up. He's the real deal. I can tell you, I have talked to a lot of people in my life, and there's a lot of frauds out there in both online coaching from real estate's perspective and just frauds out there from doctors, lawyers, people who just have a label, who don't know what you're going through or what you've been through. And I definitely think that resonates with you, is that you've been through it, you understand it, and there's not any embellishment. And you've lived a successful life in spite of it all and still sought out the cure, the fix, and you realized you just got to face it, right?
Yeah.
I think
simply said, not easy to do. It takes a lot of practice.
Surrender is the word that it leaves with me today. When you said that hit, and I was like, because there's such a, like you said, the fight or flight. You're usually knuckled up there trying to and I think surrender is the key word, right?
And there's power in that. It really is. There's power in that, to where when I'd be whatever it may be, I would walk in the stores. I'd turn my palms up and we'd say, "Let's go." Right? Do it. Anxiety has nowhere to go. Yeah. Anxiety has zero where to go. Yeah. Bring it. What else you got? Now, you go trying to say that when you don't mean it, because that's what it is at first. I'm not surrendering, Jeff. Yeah, you got to earn it. Meaning, at first you kind of allow it to be there. It's like a spectrum. At first you're allowing it, then you kind of start understanding acceptance, and eventually you're just like, whatever, man. Let's go. And it just takes all the gas out of anxiety.
Slowly but surely, man. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Guys, make sure that you give this a 5-star review. Jeff's the real deal. I appreciate you spending your time with me today. It's your most valuable resource. You look good for almost 60. I'll tell you that right now. You don't look, I would have never guessed. I would guess you're in your 40s. So whatever you're doing it right.
I'm going to take your route. I'm going to start, how old? I'm 48.
Just tell everybody today you're 60, and then tell everybody next year you're 60, and then, when you're about, yeah.
All right.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning into our podcast right now. I am so happy that you are here. You are in the right spot to be getting inspired by other people that have just achieved their goals so that you can achieve your goals. Do me a favor. Leave us a 5-star review. It really helps us grow. And give us comments and feedbacks. We read those. It helps us grow. The most important person in this podcast is the listener, right? And so if you give us your feedback, it will allow us to create a better podcast for you. And make sure you enjoy the show and leave us a 5-star review.